Good morning. Welcome to First United Methodist Church in beautiful downtown Humboldt. It was a little rainy and drizzly, but that's all right. We need the rain. My name is Pam Dietz, and I am the Sunday school teacher today, and I need to tell you that it's going to be a little different. The format is more of a devotion than an actual Sunday school lesson, and the reason for that is will be made clear if you come to our worship service or check it out on YouTube. I want to start by talking about coincidences. And I'm constantly amazed by God and how he uses coincidences. So you may or may not know that I write a women's devotion for our weekly newsletter. And sometimes I struggle to find something to write about. Sometimes what I write about is just stupid. Sometimes I feel like it's inspired by God. But in any case, I spend the week looking and thinking and reading and pondering and trying to find a guidance from God on what I should write in that devotion. And I won't say that it's any great shakes or needs to be made into a book, but I try. So I don't know why, but I'm constantly amazed by how God works. I mean, he's God. Why am I amazed? I don't know, but I am. And so during the week, this week, I felt several nudges, omens, leadings. And I want to start with saying this is a judgment-free zone. Everybody's welcome. None of us are perfect. And I have a confession to make. No judging. I usually have 2 audiobooks going at one time. And I listen to them at different times of the day, depending on what my mood is. And I usually also have 2 or 3 books that I'm reading, sometimes in a Kindle format. I have one book on my it's an iPad with a Kindle app. I have another book on my phone, Kindle app, and I have a real book that I read. So, like I said, no judging. I may be making myself a little ADD, but that's all right. And what's really strange is the message that I've really felt led to came from several of these readings, these books, these non-Christian writings, fiction, fun stories. And the message was to just be. Just be. And as I was writing the devotion, I couldn't quite put my finger on how to express what the books were saying, because obviously they are well-published authors and have a gift of words, and I really don't have that gift. But this morning, it finally clicked in my brain that what I was looking for was a verse from Psalms, and it's 46:10. It says, "Be still and know that I am God." So that's kind of where all this was leading up to, is that verse. Be still. Be still. One of my favorite things to do at this time of my life is to sit on my back porch, and I have like an umbrella swing, then I sit in it. It's peaceful, it's relaxing, it's comfortable. I look at the trees. Sometimes they're green, sometimes they're colors, sometimes they're bare. But in any case, I'm outside, in nature, in the fresh air. Sometimes I read, sometimes I listen to music or a book, and sometimes I just sit. And it's the times that I just sit with my own thoughts for a while that I begin to be more in touch with the world, with God, with who I am in God's frame of reference. And it takes time. It's not something you can go and sit down for a quick 30-second break. It takes time. So the first book that I was reading was actually an audiobook I was listening to. It's called The Alchemist. And I don't know if you're familiar with it. I've read it before, but it was some time, and I wanted to go back over it. And it's about a young man on a journey to find his personal treasure. And throughout this journey, the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, he was told or shown what life would be like, and that the future would happen whether he knows about it or not. He sought a fortune teller who would not tell him his fortune. He talked with several wise people who finally made him understand that knowing the future and being able to prepare for the future does not help. If you know the future and you know for a fact that is what's going to happen, you cannot change it. You cannot do anything to change it. So all you've accomplished is to make yourself worry in the now, in the present. And you cannot just be. And so through the story, he finally learned to be at peace in the moment because he trusted the soul of the universe, which is God. One of the stories told in this particular book was that a creator puts a part of him or herself into their creation. It's just the way it works. Whatever you make, whatever you create, a part of yourself kind of goes into it, and it reflects a little bit of who you are. Because God has made all things, he put himself into all things. The grains of sand, the drops of water, the molecules that make up this wood, and of course us as human beings. And each individual thing that he created has a part of God in it, and therefore we are all connected through that part of God that is in ourselves. So when you are just being, you are connecting with everything God has created. You can appreciate it, you can be at peace, and sometimes you can be comforted by it. Another book I was reading, the central character lost his son in a drunk driving accident in which his wife was driving. Now, he and his wife both drank every day socially. It was just the accepted way of life, and he decided to stop drinking. His wife was not drunk when the accident occurred. Her blood alcohol level was below whatever the limit was, but he couldn't help but wonder if she had not had a drink or two, would her reactions have been quicker? Could she have avoided that accident? She was not at fault. The other person got the ticket. Nevertheless, their son died, and he decided to stop drinking. She did not. She didn't see it the same way. They ended up divorcing. He's a school teacher, and after the divorce, he decided to buy an RV, and he saved his money through the 9 months of teaching, and he spent every summer traveling, going to the national parks in the West and the Southwest. And he loved it. It was his best life. Well, one summer he broke down, and the mechanic that came to his rescue had 2 small boys. In the course of events, the mechanic was an alcoholic, had to go to jail, and he had nobody to take his boys because his wife had left. And he prevailed on the man to take his boys for his summer trip and then bring them back at the end of the summer. And the man still didn't really understand why, but he agreed. And so he took the boys, and every step of the way, he worked to help them heal from the trauma they had experienced. And he taught them to enjoy the present. They were always wanting to know, where are we going next? What are we doing today? What's next? And over time, he taught them to just be and enjoy where they were. And there was no schedule for the trip. When they saw everything they wanted to see at the place that they were, and they experienced everything they wanted to experience, then they moved on to the next place. But not until. When the time was right. And most of the time was spent sitting around a campfire just being. Not talking, telling stories, just being. And so they learned this lesson. Years later, the man got a debilitating disease and was unable to travel anymore, and the 2 boys came back. They bought his RV, they fixed it up, and they physically helped him get into it, and they took him to the parks, the national parks. They took him on the trip he took them on. And every day they went where they needed to go, and they did what they needed to do until they were ready to move on. The whole time the man is worrying. What if? What about? I can't. And he was negative. and sad and a little critical. But over the course of the summer, the boy slowly re-taught him what he had forgotten. It's okay. You can't control the future. You cannot change what's going to happen, but you can be at peace, at rest. You can be still in the now, knowing that it will be okay, whatever it is. So from Psalm 46, it begins by saying, God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in trouble. And in other places in the Bible, it tells us not to worry about the future because God will provide what we need. Verse 7, the Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. If you'll take some time and go back to the Old Testament and read through who the Lord Almighty was and who the God of Jacob was, that's very reassuring to know that that powerful presence is with us. He goes on to talk about what the Lord has done. And he says, be still and know that I am God. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. So some 365 times the Bible says, fear not, do not be afraid, or some variation of that, one for each day of the year. And I know I've mentioned that before. And to me, that's reassuring because every day of the year, God has me in his mind. And I'm not supposed to worry. And I'm not supposed to try to control the future. I need to do just what I need to do now, in this moment. Sometimes it's just to sit and be still. I'm not an expert, and I'm certainly not a perfect Christian, but I am trying. I don't have the answer for other people. I can't tell you what is best for you, but God knows, and he has your answer. Matthew 7:7 says, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and the door will be opened to you. All you have to do is ask. God will provide. He always has. Ask God to teach you how to be in the moment, without worry, without fear, with peace in your soul, because that is a gift from God, and it is good. Thanks.